This is how to book Delta flights using your credit card points and miles. There are 4 main ways of doing so, and I'm going to show you how to figure out which option is best based on the credit card that you have. So let's go ahead and get into it. So this is pointsy.com. I have a few videos going over all of its different functions more in depth, but I'm going to show you specifically how to use it to find Delta flights. Now I'm going to take the practical approach and assume that you have a destination in mind. However, I don't know what that is. So I'm going to say you're flying from Atlanta because you're a Delta lover, and we're going to fly over to New York City. And so with points, I always like to search one way at a time. You just simply select whatever date range you're interested in flying. I always leave these kind of empty. You can change it to 2 passengers, but I don't really filter it out yet because you could do it later on. And then once you've got that information put in, you just hit yeah. And Pointsy will show you all of the different flights available that you could book with points on the 25 plus programs that they search. Based on the sorting tool here, it's going to show us the points from lowest to highest. And so obviously we're not going to be booking using all of our Spirit points that we have. So now we're going to use these filters to find our Delta flights. To do this, I'm not going to click on airline programs, but we're going to click on airlines over here, and then I'm just going to filter for Delta flights only. Now this will show us all the Delta flights available on Delta and on other award partners as well. Now as you can see, it's saying that the Delta option is the cheapest. Do note that this is basic economy and not main cabin, and so they do tend to have the cheapest domestic award prices if it's available. Now the thing is, American Express is the only transfer partner over to Delta SkyMiles. However, if you don't have American Express points, not all hope is lost here, because like I said, there's 4 different ways, and Points gives you 3 ways to book Delta flights on points and miles. And so Delta SkyMiles is one way. To show you the other 2, I'm going to go to airline programs, and the other 2 ways is going to be Air France and then Virgin Atlantic. And so we don't want to see the Delta SkyMiles option, so if you unclick that, it'll bring the next cheapest option. So it shows us that we have this Delta flight that's bookable with Virgin Atlantic, and so it says 9,000 points here because there's a transfer bonus from American Express and Chase, 30%, so that brings the price down to 9,000 points. But really it costs 11,000 Virgin Atlantic points total. So if you just have Capital One and Citi points, you're going to need the full 11,000. And then if we look at the other partner, we can get rid of these Virgin Atlantic flights by clicking here. And as you can see, it costs just 10,500 points. However, most of these programs make you transfer in 1,000 point increments, so it's really going to be 11,000 points as well. And do note that flights booked via Air France or Virgin Atlantic is going to be in main cabin economy instead of basic economy as well. Now I had said American Express is the only partner that transfers over to Delta SkyMiles, but the good news is that every flexible points currency transfers over to KLM and Air France. And then everyone except Wells Fargo transfers over to Virgin Atlantic. So essentially you're able to use almost any credit card to book a Delta flight. Now I will give the caveat that not every flight available on Delta Airlines via Delta SkyMiles program is not going to be available on Air France, KLM, or on Virgin Atlantic. We're really at the mercy of Delta Airlines as far as what award space they release to partner airlines. But Pointsy makes it easy and searches that for you. And so once you find a flight that you're interested in taking, like let's say you want this, you simply select this drop down arrow, select view booking options, and then I always recommend to pretend that you're going to go ahead and book and hit select this first option, say yeah, let's go. And then it'll take you directly to KLM or Air France program website and search those dates for you and bring up those award search hits. And then you simply just select on whichever fare you're interested in, and then make sure you transfer your points from your bank to the airline at this point once you confirm that that award availability is there. And for this, you will need an account with the airline, be able to transfer your points. Then you go back to this website, continue the booking process from there and following the prompts. And so that's how you book a Delta flight for just $18 on KLM and Air France, and it will be typically $5.60 with Virgin Atlantic and Delta. Whenever you pay these taxes and fees, a pro tip here is to make sure to pay those taxes and fees with your premium credit card, such as the Chase Sapphire Preferred, so that way you get those travel benefits tied to this booking here. But what about the 4th way, and are these the prices that you can expect for every Delta flight? Now let me break these 2 questions down a little bit more, but first let me know in the comments if this has been helpful for you so far. Also let me know by giving this video a like, and then consider subscribing if you like this type of content. My name's Michael, by the way. Now in terms of pricing, Virgin Atlantic is kind enough to give us an award chart here that tells us how much it's going to charge based on the distance of the flight. And so for context, it starts here at 7,500 points. at very regional flights. And then if you're flying transcontinental, like from California over to New York, it's going to cost closer to the 22,000 point range. Now, Air France and KLM, they don't have a published award chart, but they do have a very strong distance-based component to it. So you'll see the prices follow very closely with these Virgin Atlantic prices. Sometimes it may be a little bit above or a little bit less based on which band you fall into. However, KLM and Air France technically are dynamically priced usually, and this is how Delta award flights are priced as well. Dynamic pricing just means that they kind of charge whatever they want. It's typically based on supply and demand, but there's a lot of other factors and they can change it at will. And so every so often you will see a random price on Air France and KLM. And although we see a lot of low pricing on Delta for domestic flights, sometimes if it's during a peak season, you'll see a random exorbitant number for no reason. Speaking of no rhyme or reason, points, yeah, will definitely get you 95% of the way there, but every so often it will miss 1 or 2 flights on airline programs such as Virgin Atlantic or Air France and KLM. So if you don't see the flight that you're looking for, it may be worth doing a thorough search on that airline's native website. And so to search on Delta's website, it's pretty simple. Just go to deltaairlines.com, type in your itinerary information, just be sure to hit the shop with miles button, and then you'll be good to go from there. Now with Virgin Atlantic, I do have a video detailing exactly how to do that with European flights, and the process is the exact same with domestic airline flights. So I'll have that video linked down below. There used to be a reward seat checker that kind of made it a little bit easier to see what's available. However, that's no longer available for domestic Delta flights. But it is good to know that Delta and Virgin Atlantic both have award calendars that make it easy to view award availability just kind of at a clear glance there. And now KLM and Air France, checking on their websites is kind of more of a pain in the butt. I do have a video on how to search for award availability with European flights on those websites, and there is an award calendar that you can access when searching for those types of flights. However, when searching for Delta domestic flights, that award calendar search function does not work. So you're not able to leave that departing date blank to access that award calendar. You do have to insert a specific date to find that Delta flight in order to book it. So typically you can find flights on Virgin Atlantic and then bring that over to Air France and KLM and find it there. However, that's not true for every single time. Now the fourth way to book a Delta flight with points and miles is going to be through a travel portal. So you can book through the American Express travel portal, and if you have the Amex Business Platinum, you can book that flight with points and then you get a 35% rebate on that flight. Now there is some nuance to this, and I'll link an article in the description if you want to learn more about that. You can also use the Chase travel portal, and if you have the Chase Sapphire Preferred, you get 25% more value on your points, so 1.25 cents per point. And then if you have the Sapphire Reserve, that increases to 50%, so 1.5 cents per point. And that could be a very attractive option if it's available to you. And then you can also book through the Capital One travel portal. And if you have the Capital One Venture X, you have that $300 travel credit. And so you can use that on a Delta flight there. So if you're not afraid of using the travel portal, you can compare this cost with the other 3 options that we find on Points Yeah and figure out which one is best for you. Just be sure to take account the cost difference as far as what to pay with actual cash versus on the travel portal, because sometimes there's a discrepancy. Now, if you don't know what I mean by being not afraid of using the travel portal, you should know that there are some risks involved of booking hotels and flights on a travel portal. And so if you want to learn more about that and my personal code of what I do and don't book on a travel portal, be sure to check out this video here. I'll see you in the next one.